VHS Halloween just dropped last week, and we have 6 new segments to rank alongside all of the other ones in this very long franchise that spans across 8 movies, a ton of different segments. Let's rank all of them, specifically tier list them. What's the worst of the worst? What's the best of the best? Let's get to it. Hey everybody, I'm Killjoy Jake, and instead of having friends, I have horror movies. Before we get into this tier list, I want to thank my buddy Crusader for making this list here. It's pretty dang cool. If you want to make your own list, I'll leave a link in the description of this video. All right, let's talk about where I decided to place all of these in all of the different categories. We have 6 different categories today, ladies and gentlemen. We have ourselves the best of the best, great, good, meh, bad outweighs the good, and worst of the worst. Starting off with the bottom here, worst of the worst, we have 3 different segments in this one. Vicious Circles in Viral is just atrocious. This is the very worst segment, I think, in the entire series by far, without a doubt in my mind. I don't know what they were going for. This feels a little nonsensical. All the characters are jerks, and the ending feels like it's a little too big for its britches. Doesn't really feel deserved or earned. Dante the Great, also from Viral, just bad. It's got this like mockumentary style found footage thing going on, which like I can appreciate that, that's cool, but ultimately Dante the Great, it begs the question of who's even filming the end of this. Like, why are cameras rolling during this ending wizard battle sequence? I don't know. And this might be a controversial one. Ty West's Second Honeymoon. I do not like this short. I love Ty West so much. I just don't think he can make shorts. The reason I put this one at the top of this tier is because I really like the neck stab. That's kind of upsetting to watch, just someone getting stabbed in the middle of the night. Okay, cool. But this one just doesn't really do much for me. I don't feel like it captures the vibe of VHS in that first movie, where maybe that wasn't defined yet. You know what I mean? It just, there's so many segments on this list that I feel like are so much better and capture that punk rock energy that this one just doesn't. Next up is Bad Outweighs the Good. At the very bottom, we have the wraparound segment for VHS 2 and the wraparound segment for VHS 1. I feel the same way about both of these segments. They're essentially trying to push this idea that the tapes you're watching are cursed in some way and can put people into a trance. It's an interesting idea, but again, I just feel like VHS is at its best when it's not trying to connect everything or trying to say that, hey, these tapes are all this one big collective. Who cares? To me, what I love about VHS is its directors coming to this franchise, being able to pitch their own ideas without having to connect anything together. That's what I think is so great about the series, why it's continuing to endure. But I feel like they ultimately kind of just missed the point of what VHS is and where it came to, you know, what it ultimately became. We got the skeleton skateboard segment from VHS Viral up next. I think what I like about this one is the special effects, you know, the practicals and the VFX work on this one. Pretty impressive. Pretty fun. I gotta give it that. But I hate the characters. Like, bottom line, I hate these characters to death. They are annoying. They're a bunch of jerks. I think some of the worst characters in the whole franchise here. But I will say, you know, the fight at the end, the skeleton versus skateboarders thing is kind of fun. So it gets some points on the board for that, I guess. Next up is Techno God from VHS 85. This is a real sore spot from that film, in my opinion. Again, cool concept, but I just don't think it really worked for me at the end of the day. I like the black box theater setting. I like the commentary on technology being kind of this scary thing back in the 80s that people didn't really quite understand yet. The iPhones joke gets a little old after a certain point. Lots to appreciate here, just the execution. I don't know if it really worked for me all that much. And top of this tier, I'm going with Gigi Saul Guerrero's The God of Death segment. I don't know, it's fine. It's got some fun little character moments and a pretty brutal ending. Outside of that, I just don't have a whole lot of love for this one. I wish I liked it more. I think it's got again, another one that really commits to the theme of 1985 really well, based on a real earthquake that happened in Mexico City. And also you got an Aztec god coming into this one at the end, which is crazy. Lots to love here. I also love that Gigi Saul Guerrero is in this segment playing a news reporter, which is fun. You can tell she had a lot of passion behind making this one, which I totally respect as well. But ultimately, I'm just not crazy about this one. I wish I liked it more. Next up is meh. So these are okay. You know, these are all right. Middle of the road segments here, I feel. We're starting off with the wraparound for VHS 94, Holy Hell. I have a lot of love for this one because it connects to the story of Terror. I'm like, okay, that's a cool idea. It fits the vibes of this one and what the twist ultimately was. I like that. I think that was kind of fun. But overall, there's a lot of spinning its wheels with this segment where we're cutting back to it and nothing happens, and then we cut to another short. You know, it's just kind of just exists a lot of the time in this movie to set up the next thing, and that to me is a little boring. Something like Diet Phantasma, which we'll talk about in a little bit here, is a wraparound segment that finds a way to not only set up what's coming up next, but can, you know, progress the story the entire time too. So I just feel like, you know, something like that is basically this, but better in a lot of ways, even though there is some cool ideas here and a pretty damn great kill at the end. Talking about wraparound segments, here is also the one for VHS Beyond, a slightly better than 94. I'll give it that. I like the mockumentary style vibes of this one. We're constantly cutting back and talking about if aliens exist, and that's a really good theme throughout this one. You know, most of the segments in 85 are about aliens. I love the creature at the end. That's really fun. But again, this one feels like it's spinning its wheels a little bit. I don't know if there's a whole lot of forward progress every time we do cut back to it. Next up is Shredding from Maggie Levin. I like this segment. What's the thing that stands out about it to me is the music, and I also just really like some of the goopy practical effects. The, you know, zombie girl band is a pretty fun, you know, antagonist of this one, and I don't know, it's cool, but again, the characters are kind of annoying to me. It kind of reminds me of the skateboard kids from VHS Viral, which I also just not a fan of. Clinical Trials with the Eye. This is basically The Eye, that movie, but with just a way worse lead character who I just cannot get invested in. The first run of the VHS films feel very pervy to me, and this one's got a little air of that I don't know if I love. I don't know if it really works for me. What I do like about this segment is there's some pretty decent jump scares, even if the ghosts all look like they're zombies from Night of the Living Dead. I think Black Mirror has done concepts like this way better. Next up is Johannes Roberts segment, which I can't say the name of in a video, but I really like this one quite a bit from VHS 99. It's essentially a character who decides, I'm gonna go all in on a sorority, and they are nasty people, and they do some pretty awful things to this lady. They put her in a coffin in the ground with a box full of spiders, and then she's attacked by an evil entity. It is pretty crazy. It's very claustrophobic. I think it hits on a very unique type of horror. I ultimately feel like the wrap up, how this one wraps up, I don't love. I don't know if I love the way this one ends, just because it feels a little too easy. But there is some cool things about this segment overall that I just love. The spider box thing makes my skin crawl every time I see it. Some really effective moments in this one. That's why it deserves some love for sure. I like this one maybe a little too much, just because I like weird and gross ideas. But Fur Babies from Justin and Christian Long here. I kind of love this segment, but I think it is objectively bad. The reason I say that is because it's basically just Tusk with dogs, and it also just does not fit the theme of VHS Beyond, which is like kind of sci-fi horror. This is a little more just like body horror. I don't know, is it really sci-fi? I don't really feel like it is. I actually do really like this one, even if the effects are kind of bad. The acting is kind of whack, but I do love our Kathy Bates inspired dog mom character that's kind of like at the center of this one. Becky is an all-timer character, which is why it goes up there for me. She's crazy, man, and I love it. It's a very unique kind of crazy too. Maybe another hot take, but this VHS slumber party segment, I'm just also not very crazy about. I think the strengths of this one is that it does have some spooky moments with the aliens. You know, if they're underwater lurking in the distance, or if they're jumping out in front of people, that's some scary stuff there. Love that. But the characters, I'm gonna go so far as to say that the characters are the very worst in this segment out of maybe any of the ones we've talked about. I hate these characters so bad. The lead up in this segment is awful. The feature version of this movie, though, I will say is so much better. Kids vs. Aliens is phenomenal, which is why I think it goes up a little higher for me, because I do really like the feature-length version of this idea. It reaches its full potential that way, but this segment, how it stands, it's just it kind of leaves a bad taste in my mouth for VHS too. It's like, man, there was so much greatness happening in this flick, and then the way it starts, the way it ends, I've never been crazy about. And then topping our list here is a segment from the original VHS Tuesday the 17th. It's a total play on Friday the 13th. And I think what I like about it so much is the kind of reinventing the Jason concept. He's this like glitchy character that like can't be filmed, which is cool. So it kind of sticks to the found footage topic in a unique way while also hitting on some slasher tropes. It's a final girl that survives and goes back to the campsite to essentially try to find a way to kill this thing. And I think it's a cool idea. It almost is a prototype for a really cool Jason short that I'd love to see happen maybe one day. So there's a lot to love about this one. It doesn't quite make the good category category in my opinion, because it does have some really goofy kills that I don't really love. Some of the kill visuals in this one, I just kind of just make me laugh. There's some good stuff happening in this one overall in terms of concept. Getting into good here, I have some hot takes, as you can see, coming up, but I really enjoyed Paco Plaza's Ut Supra Seek Infra, which I think you can argue is maybe the least favorite of VHS Halloween, but still some really cool stuff happening here. There's a great kill, one of the scariest kills in the entire VHS franchise towards the end of this one, with an eyeball getting ripped out of somebody's socket. You gotta love that. That is brutal. The concept is cool too, but ultimately I just feel like the rest of the segments in VHS Halloween top this one. Maybe a little disappointing there, because I think Paco, you know, when you're talking about found footage directors, Paco Plaza is up there. I mean, this is one of those guys who, I mean, he's made one of the best found footage flicks ever with Wreck. So when he was announced for this franchise, I'm like, oh, that's going to be an easy W. That's going to be one of the best segments. So to call this probably my least favorite of VHS Halloween was a little disappointing. But this one does hit some scarier territory, which that film doesn't really do with all of its segments. You know, a lot of VHS Halloween is a little campier, is a little goofier and fun. Parallel Monsters is a segment from VHS Viral that I really enjoy and I will defend. I think it is the very brightest spot of that probably ill-fated entry that I think VHS Viral is easily my least favorite from the whole series. But what's the best part of it? It's Parallel Monsters, dude. It's a great concept. I love the idea of, you know, different dimensions. We're traveling through, you know, different, and we're seeing like very different variants of the same character, which is cool, but we don't know the differences. We don't know the dangers of what's happening in this other universe. The early VHS films, they're very pervy, and that's kind of where this one gets to as well. That doesn't really work for me. I don't know. I feel like this one gets into that a little bit too much, but I will say the demon penis is hilarious. You gotta love that. Parallel Monsters, though, great concept and some really scary visuals. At the end of the day, I don't think I love this one. I think it's really cool, and it deserves the good status, which might be a hot take. But overall, I can't put it too much higher than where it's at. I think it's already high enough. I might be high for putting it this high. Gawkers is a good segment in VHS 99. I don't like the Army Men thing. It's a little, I get what it's going for, you know, the idea of like these home videos that you made as a kid kind of vibes to it. That's cool to me, but I think the Army Men stuff kind of gets a little annoying as a wraparound. It leads into this segment pretty well, which is fun. And Medusa, I think, is a really cool villain. I think like just definitely a standout villain from this whole franchise, which is why I gotta put this one up here. The creature design is phenomenal. The, you know, VFX snakes on the head looks really nasty. Some really impressive work there. The kids kind of remind me of the skateboard kids from VHS Viral, which is a trope that should die in in this series, but again, still a lot to love about this segment, which is pretty damn cool. VHS Beyond's Dream Girl is another segment that I'm a defender of. This idea of fame being something that some people deserve and others don't, but maybe, you know, that's how people at the top think about you as well, you know what I mean? So it's interesting. There's a lot to think about with this one that I enjoy. This one kind of breaks the found footage a little bit with the idea of using like specialty cameras like during the music video filming, but that is, I guess, still found footage. It's just a really unique way of doing it. Found footage from a film crew, you know, with really professional cameras. That's what it would look like. So I'm like, okay, I can get into that. That's fun. The paparazzi element, I think, is also a unique way to answer the question of why are we filming. Some great practical effects here too. I love the Dream Girl robot design. I don't know, it's cool. It's a fun little crazy segment. This is probably a hot take. VHS 94's The Empty Wake is up next. I've heard a lot of people say this was their favorite from the franchise. A lot of people were like, dude, this is one of the scariest ones, and it totally is. It has some really scary energy, some great atmosphere. Takes a little time to get to where it's going, which is why I think I value some of the other segments on this list a little more, but this one definitely stands out for that reason. That's why it deserves good, and I think this is absolutely his best contribution to the entire series. I guess I kind of wanted more. There's some fun lore, a crazy creature at the end, but yeah, I guess it just takes its time to get to where it's going. Next up is Coochie Coochie Coo from Anna's Lukovic. Really love the concept of this segment quite a bit. It is both scary and tragic and gross. That's more than both, but you get my point. The main characters may be kind of shitty, but I think by the end of this segment, you realize that this is more about the mommy cryptid. This is more about her story rather than our main characters we're following at the end of the day. We learn more about her through this segment than anybody else. She lost her kid, so through some kind of crazy supernatural force, she's able to have this like impossible infinite labyrinth house where she's able to capture people and turn them into her babies. Like that's Ugh, that's terrifying. I think this is another one that, just like Stowaway, which we'll talk about in a little bit, captures that energy of like a fate worse than death, which is really interesting. At the very tippy top of good here is probably one of my favorite wraparound segments of the whole bunch is Total Copy. This is a very impressive wraparound. I love that one. Every time we cut back to it, pretty much adds on to the story a little bit, which is nice. We learn more about the central argument between the doctors about should we be studying this thing or not. You know, Rory here is exhibiting signs that are kind of freaky and, you know, kind of watching us and through the glass. I don't like that. You know, some of the doctors leave and our main guy just stays on the project to make it happen. This one is super influenced by The Fly 2, I feel, which is a really interesting pull from the 80s. You know, I think if you're going to do something from the 80s, maybe do The Fly, but they're hitting on The Fly 2 instead, which I think is kind of cool. You got to love that about this David Bruckner segment here. That's also a wraparound segment. Typically, I'm not crazy about those. This one stands out, though. Moving in to great, there are some awesome segments here, ladies and gentlemen. These are some of my favorites from the whole catalog. Starting off here with Justin Martinez's Live and Let Dive. Love this segment to death. It's got some of the best settings of the entire franchise, between a plane in the sky that crashes into a UFO and then we're in a fucking orange grove. That is so, I can't name another just movie that I've seen that takes place in an orange grove. That is such an interesting idea for a place to generate tension and terror. I love this segment to death. Lots to love here. It is a VFX showcase, which makes sense coming from director Justin Martinez, who was a former member of Radio Silence, did all the VFX work for their early projects as well as for pretty much every entry of the VHS franchise, if I'm not mistaken. So you gotta love what he was able to accomplish with this segment. Even if you're more of a fan of practicals, there is still some of that here, but like I feel like what's the main attraction with this segment? It's the VFX showcase, which is really impressive. These characters flying out of a plane that explodes. The fact that they were able to accomplish that, I think this is a very big feat for the VHS franchise, this whole little segment here. So it definitely deserves some love for sure. Next up is The Subject from Timo Gianto. I wish I liked this one more. I think my thing about it that I do really like is that it feels like a first-person shooter, but with a really unique concept. This idea of this mad scientist who found a way to basically mend flesh and metal to work together as one living organism. I think that's a really cool concept that's done really well here. The PlayStation 3 level graphics are kind of iffy to me, but I think it works with the video game feel overall, and it's got a really crazy ambiguous ending that lends itself to so much more in the future. Gotta love this segment. Lots of great stuff happening here. Lots of gore, lots of crazy practicals that are a ton of fun too. Very reminiscent of Safe Haven for that reason, which we'll talk about a little later on. Diet Phantasma from Brian M. Ferguson is without a doubt my absolute favorite wraparound segment of the entire franchise. No competition. Maybe Total Copy is up there, but dude, Diet Phantasma rocks. This one does not spin its wheels like a lot of the wraparound segments we talked about before, where we cut back to it and nothing happens. There's always some sort of progression with the doctor, you know, being like, oh man, this isn't working, let's do this instead. There's a lot of laughs, there's a lot of gore, there's a lot of crazy happenings every time you cut back to this segment to find out what's going on with this drink, you know, what it is, what's the point of this whole thing. And once you get that answer too, it's pretty dark, it's pretty messed up. And I love this segment quite a bit. There's a lot of cool things going on here. A great Halloween 3 influence as well, which, like, if you're gonna do a horror anthology film that is based on Halloween, you gotta have a Halloween 3 reference in there, and I'm glad they found that with Diet Phantasma, man. Next up is Fun Size from Casper Kelly. I love this segment to death, and it just makes me crack up laughing. I love Casper Kelly's style so much. His mixture of humor and horror is such a unique one. It's almost got like a cartoonish flair to it that, again, is represented really well here. If you guys haven't seen Too Many Cooks or The Fireplace from him, I highly recommend those, short and feature. Lots of silly things happening in this one, some candy-themed deaths, some crazy gore, and some really fun, iconic characters. I think in almost every VHS movie, there's like a monster that is just iconic, and the Candy King here is without a doubt that from this movie. Hail Candy King! Next up is Jordan Downey's Storks. You want to talk about some good monsters, ladies and gentlemen? This is the one from VHS Beyond that I think is maybe my favorite. Ooh, baby! I love this nasty-looking monster that is stealing babies and feeding them the brains of its minions. That is an insane idea. This is also basically Jordan Downey doing a Resident Evil Stars short film. It has that first-person shooter energy of Timo Gianto's The Subject, which is cool. Lots of great kills, lots of scary moments, even some cheesy moments that are fun too, but I have a good time with it. I think one of the scariest shots in the entire VHS franchise is also in this segment. We cut to one of the like monsters holding a messed up baby, and it just has this creepy smile on its face. That sends fear straight down my spine. I don't know what it is, but that one freaks me out. Love that shot, love that monster, love the stork monster at the end too. And the Rotma reference here is pretty damn cool. The strange thing that happened to Emily when she was younger, crazy underrated segment from the original VHS. It has a great twist at the end. This is another one that's kind of slow burn, but once we get there, you know, it hits. This one I think is very similar to The Empty Wake in that sense. Also written by Simon Barrett, interestingly enough. I think I like this one maybe even better than Empty Wake though, the more I think about it, because I just, the twist at the end hits hard. It's not just like we're not only shifting genres, we thought it was maybe ghosts, but it's something else. But there's also another element to the twist that like is just blow your mind crazy. It's a segment from the original VHS that doesn't get talked about enough. I think there's a lot to love here. Mike P. Nelson's double feature segment thing going on here in VHS 85 is a big bright spot of that one. Lots of segments from that movie that I wasn't crazy about, but this one totally rocked. When you only see the first half, it might feel a little disappointing, but that back half really picks up the steam there and gets this one going into full gear, which I liked. Some great concepts, some great ideas here. The lake being able to, you know, resurrect people and give them immortality, essentially. We actually saw him utilize that same idea in his Sweet Revenge short film, which is fun. The other thing I really like about this segment is the Stephen King influence. It's almost like if Pet Sematary and The Raft were mushed together. Ozzy's Dungeon, another one that I just love. This is probably my favorite of VHS 99, but I think To Hell and Back is objectively better, which we'll talk about in a second. Ozzy's Dungeon, it is gross, it is scary, and I think it's hilarious. It's got a great performance from Stephen Ogg, which is super memorable. Gotta love him from GTA 5. Here he is hanging out with Flying Lotus. Out of all the segments in VHS 99, this one captures the energy of 1999 maybe the best. It's totally based on that game show, Legend of the Hidden Temple or whatever. I mean, like, come on. I would put it higher if the ending made a little more sense, I think is my thing. I don't know if I ever got the wish of the little girl. I don't know why she wanted her whole family dead. Maybe it's just because she's evil. She's just crazy and evil, but I think that's my only negative about this one. It's just the wish at the end. I don't feel makes a whole lot of sense. To Hell and Back is such a bright spot of VHS 99. It is chaotic. It's got a great setting in this like crazy little like mountain valley that they shot it in, which looks like it would be really hard to film in. And also your performance from Mabel the Skullbiter here is like just an all-timer from the whole VHS franchise. Gotta love that. She's gross. Getting into my top 10 here, entry number 10 is Terror. I love this segment so much. It hits on some really interesting and relevant events from the mid-90s, while also combining that with some of the supernatural terror that we have grown to love about this series. It fits the theme really well, while also having some commentary on real-life events. I just think it's awesome. It's a really great usage of its central supernatural idea, while also hitting on some real-life horror as well. Ryan Prose absolutely knocked it out of the park with this one. Gotta love it. Easily top of great for sure. And now, ladies and gentlemen, getting into the cream of the crop, the best of the best. Starting off with my number 9th pick, not 9th best, Home Haunt. This is another one like Terror where I feel like it's a marriage of two really good ideas coming together to make something really fresh. You have like these Spirit Halloween goofy animatronic style monsters, and they're actually killing people in brutal, messed up ways. It's like two ends of a spectrum coming together to be like this adult Goosebumps episode that I just loved. Oh my God, there are some gnarly kills here. There's a great emotional relationship between father and son that I think is done very well, even if the ending doesn't necessarily hit that beat that I wanted to hit. The emotional beat there, I don't know if is necessarily completely, like, that arc is not necessarily closed, but the monsters and practical effects here just shoot this one to the top for me. I loved Home Haunt. Oh my God, this one rocked very hard. Next up is Amateur Night from David Bruckner. This might be a hot take. There's definitely more segments I like better than this one. I'm so sorry. What drags this one down, and I'm gonna sound like a broken record that just caught flame, the characters, they suck. And that's totally the point, which is why this makes it to best of the best, but it doesn't detract from the fact that I don't like hanging out with these characters. They're a bunch of douchebags who are preying on women, and it's, I don't know, it's gross. They get what they deserve at the end, which is awesome. Even the character that you might feel a little sympathetic for, that you shouldn't. You know, I think the movie kind of tricks you into maybe feeling bad for our glasses wearing character, but he's kind of the worst of all of them, I feel, in some ways. You gotta love Hannah Fierman's performance as the Siren, one of the most iconic villains and monsters from this entire series. Next up is the segment that probably scares me the most out of this entire list. Number 7 on the board is Kid Print from Alex Ross Perry. Kid Print doesn't need a supernatural element to be terrifying, which is why I think it just deserves best of the best category. Big thing about Kid Print for me especially is the ending. When our guy who's been doing all of this, who has been kidnapping the kids the entire time, gets away with murder and blames it on the main dude you've been following the whole time. Oh my God. Most of these segments I don't think could actually happen, but this one I feel like could. Practical effects go hard in this one too. My God, this is a dark segment. Next up is Stowaway. I mean, for concept alone, this one goes up there because it is just terrifying. It's a fate worse than death for our main character who essentially gets trapped on this spaceship that is going at the speed of light, gets ripped apart into a million pieces, and is rebuilt by nanobots into a worse and worse creature every single time. That is horrifying. I just love this segment. I think it goes a little lower for me than some of the other ones just because I think the buildup has some unintentionally goofy moments that I don't know if they all work for me, but man, the ending of this one goes so hard. It's just like, that's one of the coolest ideas we've seen in the sandbox that is the VHS franchise. Speaking of good ideas, Scott Derrickson's Dream Kill is up next, breaking into the top 5 here. Dream Kill is what makes VHS 85 a killer movie. It is a really, really good segment. Killer idea that's very reminiscent of The Black Phone, even set in the same universe with a nice little Easter egg in there. And also has some really cool characters. Nice twist at the end, and also some of the most scary shit I've ever seen in this franchise with Scott Derrickson's iconic Super 8 style footage. Love the performances here from James Ransone and Atticus Derrickson as well. If I'm not mistaken, Atticus did the music for this segment as well. Just one of the very best in VHS history. Next up is Radio Silence's 10/31/98. Radio Silence understood the assignment with this one. It is really cool to see characters who are actually like morally trying to help somebody, where this entire movie we've been watching a bunch of douchebag characters like essentially get what they deserve, where this segment it's like here's characters who are trying to do the right thing and still get punished for it. It's very cynical, but it's having fun doing it, and I think that's why we can really vibe with this one. It's a cool idea, you know, costume party where the characters go to the wrong house and they never should have walked in there. Wrong time, wrong place, kind of thing. So really fun happenings here. Justin Martinez absolutely killing it with the VFX once again. Those hands coming out the wall look real. It's scary stuff. You gotta love that they reference this in Scream 6 with the same costumes. Next up is A Ride in the Park. This is such a great segment. It deserves top 3 without a doubt. Zombies is a thing that has been done to death and not so many times done so well in found footage, but this might be my favorite found footage zombie thing. It's no wonder this segment is so good. It's directed by Eduardo Sanchez, who also did the Blair Witch Project. Dude understands found footage. Here, he's able to have a lot of fun with zombies attacking different kinds of people and different kinds of events. If it's this biker at the very beginning who gets attacked by a zombie and then turned and you're following him as there's this GoPro still attached to his head, but then we see zombies attack a little girl's birthday party, which is hilarious. This is juxtaposed with an emotional story at its core. Our main character getting a call from his girlfriend, which happened at the very beginning of the short, and then when he gets a call later on, he butt dials her, and he hears her voice. You see that there's still some humanity in this zombie. So we just learned so much about this like coming apocalypse essentially from this little interaction here that feels a little inconsequential maybe to the like a greater story happening overall, but it's so interesting that we can learn so much from this very small little pocket story about this whole world that is probably falling apart. Next up, taking the second place here is Safe Haven. This is one of the best this is the best segment, I think, for many people. There's so much happening in this one that just makes it like go all the way to the top. I mean, there are some crazy creatures, there are some just crazy performances across the board, blood, guts. There's really not too many like cult themed VHS segments. This is a very unique for that reason as well. They're trying to summon a demon and they're successful in doing so, as you can see from this final shot here. I think objectively Safe Haven is the best VHS segment, but there's one that I just think is my all-time favorite. That is, of course, Storm Drain with Rotma. I feel like if any segment just captures what I love so much about VHS, it's Storm Drain. Same thing goes with Safe Haven, don't get me wrong, but Storm Drain, man, Rotma is just a very special villain. I love her to death. The idea of a sewer-dwelling cult that worships a rat goddess, that's what I want from VHS. Crazy ideas like that executed very well. And this segment, I love it through and through. It's like it is my favorite segment. I think it's the best VHS segment. It captures everything I could possibly want from this franchise, all in a nice, neat little like 15 to 20 minutes. So that's my list, ladies and gentlemen, but what do you guys think? How would you rank all of these segments? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe, and as always, don't forget to kill it out there, y'all.